Hey, it's Mike. Welcome to another version of my video blog series that I've been doing. And as you know from previous episodes, I'm hunting interesting stories that I think hopefully other people would find interesting. So the other day I came across a really interesting story about Savills Studley and Leverton partnering on a new AI product. And for me, like, AI is something that everybody's talking about. It's at all of our conferences. It's all over the tech media, but I found very few real examples of CREtech companies applying AI in the brokerage sector. And I found one here, and I wanted to learn more about it. So it's my great pleasure to welcome in Abe, the CEO of Leverton, and Patrick, the CIO of Savills Studley. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having us. Good to be here.
Beautiful office in on Park Avenue.
399 Park.
399 Park. So let's just start with some background. So Abe, if you could just talk a little bit about, quickly how you got to Leverton and sort of what your role is and what the company does, and then we'll learn a little bit more about Patrick.
Yeah, sure. So my background is actually Wall Street. I started out at an investment bank, private equity firm. I started my own commercial real estate fund in the Southeast in Nashville. So I sort of have this weird mix of experience of finance, tech, and real estate, which led me to Leverton, which we're actually based in Europe and have offices in Berlin, London, and New York. And I'm the global CEO, so running all of our business in all of our regions.
Great. And how would you describe Leverton? Like, what's your elevator pitch if I met you and say, hey, what is Leverton?
Look, very simply, it is a software as a service platform that's powered by AI that allows you to drag and drop documents of corporate or legal nature and extract information either automatically or semi-automatically. So think about dropping a real estate lease in and pulling out all the key terms and conditions using an AI engine along with some human validation.
Awesome. Patrick.
So I am homegrown Savills Studley now. So I grew up at the firm 16 years.
Oh
my
goodness.
Background's in real estate and finance, so I have an MBA from Wharton. A myriad of roles within the organization. Started out as a market and financial analyst, did the bootstrap traditional brokerage business development path, built up a book of business, transitioned to the corporate side, helped oversee our post-merger integration with Savills, which happened 2014. We sold to Savills. And just recently stepped into the role of really revamping our entire America's brokerage platform and digitizing and future-proofing and hopefully making the most innovative, occupier-focused real estate brokerage firm out there.
Terrific. So let's start with you then, Patrick. So how does Savills Studley approach technology as a firm? What are some of your objectives, some of your strategies as an organization?
So traditionally we've had a pretty decentralized approach to technology, and I think there's some benefits to that, right? You see a lot of creativity out in the field with what our salespeople are bringing to the client, what the client is sort of looking for, and there's some organic benefits to that. My role has really been to formalize a more centralized, thoughtful approach to technology and taking the best of what we find in that sort of decentralized network and deploying it with scale across the organization.
So what would you say some of the priorities are for you and the organization as it relates to that sort of mandate?
Well, I think macro level, the world doesn't really need another commercial brokerage firm. It needs a better one. So I think within that construct, really pushing the frontier of innovation where we're delivering value to our clients is where we want to focus our attention. And our clients are both external and internal too, right? So I think the top tier brokerage professionals out there are looking for a tech forward platform and one that can really bring them down the different channels that are popping up and introduce them to those types of opportunities, but also bring the best tools to the client to deliver value.
Got it. Abe, from your perspective, I mean, obviously you have a large client base, you're a large company. How do you view sort of the brokerage sector within your client base?
So the brokerage sector is interesting. It's one that's sort of highly fragmented, and you've got even players within larger organizations kind of doing their own thing regionally or even by city. So, you know, if we work with somebody in New York, doesn't necessarily mean that their Chicago counterpart wants to use the same tech, because usually there isn't really a global mandate. And I think that's what's interesting about the partnerships that we're trying to develop, is we're trying to do it at the top level and sort of trickle down so that everybody kind of sees the benefits and gets on the platform. Brokerage has some unique aspects in terms of what they want from technology and the personalities that are in it. You know, it's very fast. Keeping somebody's attention for more than 5 seconds is tough, and they want things yesterday, right? And that's the most important thing: is can a technology, service, and solution deliver on that facet and that approach, and can it be made to work in the field, which most of the brokers are constantly traveling, right? So it's not like they're always sitting behind a desktop computer or something like that. So I think a combination of these things is, whenever we think about, okay, we need to purpose this to solve brokerage problems, we always have to think about the personalities and sort of the deals that they're working on, and how to construct a solution that solves a lot of those issues.
Right. So Abe, from like when you know, AI, obviously this is your business, and it's, you know, you can't pick up a TechCrunch or RE Code or some tech trade media and not see AI. You know, from your perspective, what is AI? And what is, but maybe some of the misnomers about it, and where do you see it finding a home in our particular industry?
So I think the general thesis of AI, we still haven't moved past this concept of Skynet and Terminator, and it's still what we think about today when people say AI. And the problem is that the market, even in the enterprise market, has come to believe that AI is you push a button and out pops an answer, right? And it doesn't work like that, not today at least. We're just not there. If you think about it, machine and deep learning algorithms have actually been around for 40 or 50 years. It's nothing new. We just never had enough compute power to actually, compute all the data that's necessary to reproduce some of these concepts. So we're just starting there, and everybody that's doing AI is starting in a very nascent period. We're all learning to teach a baby, and it's still going to be a baby, and then from a baby it'll be a toddler, and from a toddler a teenager, and eventually we may become an adult, and you'll think about this sort of omniscient AI. Today when I think about AI, I think about AI as one construct within a larger workflow automation system. So really AI is just a means, but really there are other aspects to developing a solution that can help to expedite or create a more efficient process. And that's what we're really doing today. We're really creating more efficiencies and trying to make a better, faster solution that actually gives you more insights with better, higher quality data. Regardless of whether it's us or somebody else, these are the general themes that are kind of pervading around. So I think what, my advice to a lot of prospects, customers, anybody who's thinking about implementing AI is stop thinking about implementing AI, think about the overall workflow solution and how you can incorporate AI into a part of that.
That's great. Patrick, what about from your perspective?
So AI is a very, broad term, right? And the application of AI in our business, I think what we're doing with Leverton is pretty interesting to me. It's about speed. It's about taking data and formalizing it and constructing it and sort of structuring it, right? So it's the unstructured to structured process, where a tool like Leverton can speed up that process so that I can use our people and thought leadership with the right data analytics tools and data visualization tools to then look into that structured data and start to see relationships and get to a more strategic perspective with their client. Like that to me is a really valuable acceleration of a process that AI can help with, and that's where we're deploying it. I think over the long run, you're going to see some very interesting applications of AI across the industry. I mean, the Google demo of their personal assistant and the ability for AI to make a reservation, right, in a very complicated conversation with difficult, background noise is mind-boggling to me. You're also seeing just in the LinkedIn interface, right, when you get LinkedIn mail from somebody, LinkedIn is reading all of the human communications patterns back and forth and suggesting to you phrases, like when will phrases become sentences. So it's a convenience piece and sort of I think the folks that get it and adopt it and deploy it the right way are going to have a speed and scale advantage, significant speed and scale advantage.
Yeah. Let's talk about how you guys came together. How did Leverton and
Savills
Savills Studley come together, and a little bit about the way it works?
It's 2 years now?
Yeah, 2 years, 2016.
And you had sought out Leverton, or
so I think the original introduction was actually through our UK business, because Leverton had a pretty strong presence across Europe. We had been looking at some ways to push the frontier of innovation around lease administration. That was the original introduction. At the same time that was happening, I was very focused on developing a data visualization analytics platform for the firm, which we call Knowledge Cubed. Yep. We talked, and I showed Abe what we were working on, and Abe quickly got it and said, you know, there are different component parts to that system. If we were to put, you know, us as a component part in that system, you'd have a better system, faster system. Let's look at that. And I said, 100%, let's do it. Let's tackle it. And very quickly we had a proof of concept, which we're now, you know, formally rolling out.
I remember being really, really excited. We met in one of their offices in a room, or at a WeWork or something, I can't remember. And he just brought out an iPad, and he showed me the wireframe of what he was developing to be the early stages of Knowledge Cubed. And I said, you guys made this? A brokerage house made this? Yeah. And then he said, yeah. And I was like, so how big is your engineering team? Well, he's like, I kind of did most of this stuff myself. Oh, wow. I said, okay, we have to work with
totally
these people.
True. We have good people that helps with that.
For sure.
For it, yeah.
But he, you know, what it showed me is that a firm like them was looking to innovate, and they were looking to move quickly. And it wasn't that we were going to sit around whiteboarding things for like years to come. Right. And even though you're seeing, you know, the partnership press release now, there have been plenty of work that we have been doing for the past couple of years to get to this point. And so that's really when we as an organization were like, we need to work with people like this who totally get it, want to innovate, want to invest the time and the energy into it, because they're really seeing the future.
So tell us about the product. What does it look like? What does it do? How does it work?
Yeah, so the Leverton component of the product is as Abe described it, right? I think of it as an interface that a traditional, you know, human lease abstraction team would work with on a day-to-day basis, and it really speeds up the whole process and just makes it easier. So taking those unstructured PDF flat file documents, amendments, leases, dropping them into the Leverton interface, quickly having an interpretation into a preset data model that we've worked on of what the accurate, you know, data would be pulled out of that unstructured, which is now a structured document and readable document, and then having the human go and correct it to teach the engine to work faster. That's the Leverton component of it. Then that component then speaks to our frameworks in terms of how we visualize that information for a client. And what's really awesome and powerful about it is with a traditional back-end lease administration system, I can take you from a dot, you know, that's sized by spend for a location that you're responsible for managing, and click you into the actual source document with Leverton, and immediately draw your attention to where in that document that data is being pulled. So in one click, I'm taking you back to the original source document, which, you know, at scale gives you transparency around the front-end information that's being presented to the C-suite, which is unparalleled. I mean, I haven't seen anything like it. Right. When we presented that at MIT for the Global Innovation Award, I think the question back to us is, why hasn't this been adopted by every company out there? So I think it's a pretty powerful, you know, mashup of technologies that we put together.
What's got you so excited about it, Abe, that
well, look,
you're most proud of?
We've always been sort of this extraction engine, right? And what we really like to do is interface with other applications. We really think of ourselves as a middleware application. We sit between other platforms. Companies already have a document management system where they're storing their documents. They already have some sort of ERP system or a lease administration system, and then they could have a BI analytics tool, for example, like Knowledge Cubed. And so we want to be that conduit layer that kind of connects all of the pieces between this physical document that nobody really wants to read or peruse through, and then the actual informed decision making that you can make off of the pie charts and the visuals and all of that kind of stuff, which you find in Knowledge Cubed. I think, you know, I've seen a bunch of facets of Knowledge Cubed, and I've seen it evolve over time. I think the insights that they give you in there are really, really interesting, because it's coming from that tenant rep view, that brokerage view, and they're really focusing in on, okay, what's important to your business as you make this decision to lease or purchase or brokerage a piece, whether it's internally for their own brokers or for their clients themselves. And we're really happy to be, just a part of that whole process and workflow, which I think is going to really change the way that people work in this industry.
So if I'm a real estate professional within your organization, how does it benefit me day to day? Like, what does it do to my job, or what tools does it give me that I didn't have access to before it was built?
So I'll give you one potential application, right? We throughput thousands of leases as an organization in a given year. And again, structuring that data in a readable analytic format is a pretty big human task. With a tool like Leverton, we can quickly get to metrics across a market or an owner or asset class that would be very difficult to get to before. So I'll give you an example. Question for our clients may be, what's our flexibility going to look like over a 10 or 15 year period? How do we build flexibility into our lease? Okay, well, you'd be thinking about expansion options, contraction options, termination options. How many owners in a given market give termination options, expansion options, contraction options? Well, now I can hypothetically see that across a much larger data set like that, and I could say, you know what, in 2018, Vornado was much more likely to give a termination option for a tenant of 50 to 75,000 square feet than they were for a tenant of 15 to 25,000 square feet. Or Boston Properties actually seems to be the landlord that is willing to give the most flexibility to their tenant base. So we should probably think about Boston Properties as a partner in your process. So that type of information to the surface to our brokers is a huge advantage.
Right. Now, on that topic then, Patrick, one of the things that I hear a lot at our conferences where we'll have other, particularly on the brokerage side, CTO, CIOs speaking, is how challenging it is to get adoption within their organization. So when you've got this product now that is leaps and bounds above, perhaps what others have, how do you integrate that into an organization of this size? You're smiling because I'm sure it's not easy.
We could probably spend an hour on user engagement and adoption. I mean, I think you have to leave the right breadcrumbs for people, and you have to give them an end state that they want to get to. So having a proof of concept that can kind of show people visually, like, here's the future, here's what's coming, like, that just gets the excitement level up. And you can't really, people don't like to change by nature, right? So you either create a burning platform or you create some exciting vision for people to run to. And I think having that proof of concept out there and winning awards and kind of getting the recognition from the client base in the room when you show it, and somebody says to you, look, our brokers are in the room with CFOs and COOs and heads of real estate. They've got an increasing amount of data that they need to manage for their business stakeholders across the world. So they're under a lot of pressure to deliver these types of tools. When our salespeople are savvy listeners in the room, they're hearing that, then they're seeing this. It's a little bit easier to get them to adopt when they can kind of put those pieces together, right? They're hearing it from the client, they're seeing the vision for what we're going to deliver and how it's going to make the client's life easier, and then ultimately you really need to train them like how best to deploy it. And it's not easy. I mean, big organizations, we're not the biggest, so I think we move faster, and that's one of the attributes that we really want to feature as a firm. But we're still big enough that it takes a while to move things through and kind of educate everybody to why we're doing this and what the vision is. And it's not replacing you; it's really augmenting you and giving you more scale as an individual.
What were some of the barriers, though? Was it just fear, or was it just uncertainty? Like what typically do you run into where you get some point of friction from some of the professionals? I think generically.
Yeah, just in terms of adoption, right? People have ways of doing things, and they work, right?
They wouldn't be decades.
They wouldn't be where they were if it didn't work on some level. So when you ask somebody to wholesale migrate to a completely new system, that in itself, I think, is a kind of a bad strategy for deploying technology. I think you have to acknowledge the component parts that work and really sort of help replace and augment different parts, and that's kind of why we haven't gone into kind of how we constructed Knowledge Cube. But what Knowledge Cube really is it's a toolkit. I mean, it's a toolkit of the best parts.
Talk about it. Talk more about it.
So, you know, all of what is really exciting to me about technology today is like the ability for different component parts to speak to each other, right? So you're seeing a lot of open API configurations, and you know, I can have a tool like Tableau speaking to Leverton. I could have a tool like Esri speaking to the data set in Leverton. So putting together those tools, you know, Tableau, Esri, Power BI, the data visualization component with the right lease administration, reporting tools, the right file management and project management tools like Force.com, Box, Dropbox, right? It allows us to go to a client and say, look, we understand your users have this workflow, and these are the parts that exist in the workflow. We're not asking you to completely jump over here, but we've got some other pieces that we can put in there to make a better overall experience. Right. And that's both internally and externally, that's our approach to user adoption. And then ultimately, like, making the user interface really intuitive. And people underestimate that. It's the silly things like, you know, Tinder's where they are, right? Why? Because it's swipe left, swipe right. I mean, Match was the first in that space. And Match is obsolete now. Why? Because of the user interface. So we learned.
Not that I know from personal experience.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm married, happily married for 10 years, but I'm a fan of user interface. So I mean, what we did with Knowledge Cube on the front end user interface, we basically just copied what we learned from Steve Jobs, right? The iOS system, the appification of things, doing mashups of these component parts and delivering them in a very consumable, intuitive way, and allowing the customer and the user to kind of customize the interface however they want. Smart. I mean, that's the easiest way to get adoption.
Yeah, one-on-one in a way. Abe, so from like your perspective, you're building products for clients and customers. What do you say when I imagine you must get the question of like, you know, why don't I just take something off of the shelf, you know, versus building and configuring something unique for that particular client. Walk me through like that narrative.
And I think just because we're a company that builds a software as a service application doesn't necessarily mean we don't use off-the-shelf products and services. I think the smartest guys who are building stuff today are leveraging either open source code or other products out there. It doesn't make sense for my company, for example, to build a user administration system when Red Hat has something already off the shelf and I have to pay like $50 a month to utilize it, right? And I think this goes back to the concept of these open API integrations. So if you look at sort of the tech companies in the CRE business that came in the 90s and 2000s, sort of the enterprise level SAP style companies that came out, they've built very closed end systems. Come into my system and you can never leave.
You can never leave.
It's a dungeon, and if I release something, you're stuck with it, and you don't have any other options, right? I think all of the companies that we've seen in this new age renaissance that have come over the past 4 or 5 years, it's been very much collaborative. It's been open APIs, it's let's talk to each other, let's figure out how this works. You're doing something special, I'm doing something special, but we actually need to build a cohesive ecosystem for the client, because in order for us to tackle Goliath, you know, the Davids need to kind of work together, right? And that's kind of the interesting part of it, is whenever you have this build versus buy concept. And then on the reverse side, we've worked with a lot of firms, and we continue to work with a lot of firms who at some point we would have pitched them this product and they would have said, well, I'll build it myself, you know? And those same customers and clients are coming back to us 3 years later and saying, well, you know what, why don't we just buy it now, right? Because it doesn't make sense. Everybody has to focus on their core competency. If you're an accounting firm or a Big Four consulting firm, your objective shouldn't be to build like an AI data abstraction engine. It should be to utilize one that's out there so that you can deliver better services and quality to your clients, right? And I think similarly, the Savills Studley guys really get our mantra, and we're sort of on the same page, and it's why, you know, they've taken different component parts and put it into one system and then built their sort of engine and UX UI on top of it, which has now built sort of a world-class product. Now with that, I will caution you that you have all the challenges of working with different partners, and you know, some partners are faster and some partners are slower. There's definitely complexity that needs to be managed, which is why you need you know, good level support from the top, and you need, you know, smart people in the middle, and then all the grinders on the bottom who are going to work with the product in and out, provide lots of advice, and then turn around things like bug resolutions, fixes really quickly and rapidly.
Great. So where do you guys go from here? What do you do with what you've got? What's the next iteration of it, and where do you ultimately see it going?
I mean, I want to go to where we just sort of laid the vision, right? I want to see our company throughputing all of our leases that we do so that we have better data. We have a better data foundation than any of the competitors, and we're doing it, with scale and speed at a cost that's advantageous to our entire user base, clients and brokers. I think the visualization of that data, there's a lot that we can do with that. But that's my next waypoint, after we sort of do our own portfolio in the Americas, is really to get Leverton as the backbone of that structured data set for the firm.
Data is something that everybody seems to talk about. It seems to be the
new
thing.
oil.
Yeah, right?
Sorry, I stole that from you.
Mine's data is God. Right?
And I feel like, particularly in the brokerage side, you're getting to the point where there's going to be a real differentiation between those firms that get it and have it and use it and those that don't. Mm-hmm. Where do you think this ultimately goes in terms of data in the brokerage industry sector conceptually?
So I don't think
what does it look like?
In particular, that data has been missing from the brokerage sector. I mean, we've had these large public databases that everybody's kind of afraid of, and there's nothing else you can do. But the quality is not there, and the structuring of the data is not there, right? So like, if you have 1,000 leases and you copy and paste a 3-paragraph renewal option into an Excel file and say, okay, this is my data point, there's no way for you to run analytics on 3 paragraphs of legal jargon, right? It has to be broken down into structured, numeric, quantitative and qualitative components, yes, no's, pick lists, 1, 2, 3, 4s, dates, dollars, figures. That's the only way where you could possibly, if a client came up to you and said, hey, I want to know my renewal percentage every year correlated versus my stock price. And does it seem like every time my stock jumps, my landlord comes and kicks up my rent, right? And those are the types of questions that in a platform like Knowledge Cubed you could start to answer if you're powered by actual structured data. So I think the question is not so much like what do you do with the data, it's like how do we get to better data and then put it into a platform that people can actually digest, right?
Right.
Yeah, I would just add, I think 5 years down the road, we're going to be looking at smart contracts. Right. I mean, that's probably the future that's coming with some of the blockchain technology and the smart contracts. So, again, I don't think that there's a lack of data. I think our goal is to make sure that we have better data, and then really do better analytics with that better data set. So, we, as a firm, we're not the biggest firm. We're not looking to be the biggest firm, but we want to be. We want to be tapping into the right data sources, including our own. Leverton's a key partner there, but we're looking at, what are the methodologies that exist out there and the companies out there that can bring really good data to the table. How do we partner with them?
When you look at, fintech or even on the residential real estate side, it seems that they've been further ahead earlier in terms of adopting some of these concepts that we're talking about than commercial real estate. When you think about what the future looks like in the next couple of years, what would you say, the model looks like in terms of a brokerage firm, how they operate, how they use AI, machine learning, et cetera, to become just, a very real-time, data-driven, analytical organization? What does that firm look like in the future?
Yeah, so I think, and he's an expert at brokerage houses more than I am, but I certainly think that more and more brokerage houses are going to be creating and standing up data analytics teams rather than sort of data abstraction teams. So you see a lot of conversion and sort of job retraining that, look, we don't need you to sit and read contracts and pull data out. We need you to actually mine that data and start delivering real insights to our customers, either via our tools or via whatever methodology.
Note future job growth. This is what I keep talking about on my blog, that these are the opportunities that are coming.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to be brutally honest here. Anytime something like this happens, you will have job shrinkage. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that for every 10 data abstractionists that each of them can be converted into a data analyst. You probably don't need that many. You probably only need 2 or 3 data analysts, right?
Definitely need to get much more scale at the individual level.
Exactly. And so I always give this sort of example. I'm like, it's not like we're putting toll booth workers back into the toll booth, right? Easy Pass came, and that's the new reality that we have to live in. And this is the same reality that is slowly getting adopted. It's taking its sweet time in sort of the commercial side, but it's coming. It's coming fast. And I see it as sort of a dominoes kind of thing. The first few will take a little while to trickle, and then it's just going to kind of go really, really fast, because you're going to have to. How, as a landlord, are you going to be competitive when you've got guys out there who know every little thing about
about you than you know yourself?
Exactly.
Right.
So I think on both sides, the tenant side, the landlord side, the brokerage, the service providers in between, the law firms, all of them are going to have to start to figure out their AI strategy, their blockchain strategy, their Internet of Things strategy if you're in the physical world. All of these things are very real, and the time to talk about them theoretically and continue to go to conferences and say, oh, this is the next big thing, that's over. Now it's time to deploy.
It's now.
Right.
Time's now. Patrick, from your point of view?
So data fuels a lot in just even in our, or will continue to fuel a lot just even in our like sales cycle component, right? So I think about channels. Like there are all these new channels out there. You need to get good content through those channels. Right. You can't have good content unless you have good data, right? Because so if we're doing better analytics, we need better data, we can create better content. If we push that content through those channels, it's to direct, you know, and we have the ability now to kind of curate who we push it to and profile them with the data to get that content to that user engages with the content, then that should be fed back through our sales system vis-a-vis a data management strategy on the CRM side to the right, you know, person who would be the follow-up touch point. I mean, that's just like a little bit of a sales cycle component. So data's key throughout, you know, that whole 360-degree, you know, view of the potential customer, the existing customer. I mean, I think it's critical that we're coherent, kind of thinking about what that world's going to look like. I mean, I've had that happen to me. You know, I get good content on Instagram. I get a follow up with somebody vis-a-vis a text message, so they're hitting me down a different channel with, hey, do you want to? I saw you, you know, downloaded this white paper. Do you want to talk? I used to be in commercial real estate, and I'm right down the street in New York. I mean, that happened in an hour with a company. I mean, that's kind of who we want to be, right? Like we want to be creating good content with data, pushing it down the right channel, understanding who the customer is that we're touching, and then following up with the right internal person. Data's the golden thread through all of that. So
clearly on your way with Abe and Leverton, and Abe and Patrick, thank you so much. Hopefully, you know, the takeaway is that change is coming, but with that change, there's great opportunity, both, you know, within an organization and the professionals that work there. Nothing but opportunity, if you, like you said, Abe, if you embrace it now, right? And change is coming in the brokerage side of the business, and clearly Savills Studley is way ahead of the curve. And so thanks for spending some time with us, and keep us posted on your exciting progress and innovation.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, guys.